I'm Iris Howe in for Steve Lance tonight. A New Hampshire federal judge today has temporarily blocked President Trump's Birthright Citizenship order for the second time. The ruling comes in response to a case requesting class action status for immigrant parents and their children. NTD's Arlene Riches explains.
The law that has been used to grant automatic citizenship to children born in the United States will remain in effect across the country. New Hampshire federal judge Joseph LaPlante on Thursday blocked President Trump's executive order that placed limitations on automatic citizenship. The president's order only allows citizenship to children with at least one parent who's a lawful permanent resident or U.S. citizen. This is the second time LaPlante has blocked Trump's order nationwide. LaPlante had previously issued a nationwide injunction, but it was overturned by the Supreme Court, which limited the ability of judges to block Trump's orders nationwide. The majority stated that such action was beyond judges' authority, explaining that lower courts' decisions can only apply to the parties before the court, unless the plaintiffs seek class action status, which, if approved, can provide the same nationwide impacts. Judge LaPlante's decision comes in conjunction with a second ruling that allows for class status to children of non-citizen parents born in the United States. Plaintiffs, a pregnant immigrant, immigrant parents, and their infants requested class status at an hour-long hearing Thursday. LaPlante granted their request but slightly narrowed the class to include only babies across the country who would be affected by Trump's executive order, not the parents. The administration's limitations on birthright citizenship remain in effect for 7 days, giving the government time to appeal. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
The Trump administration today is moving to bar illegal immigrants from getting several federal benefits. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the details.
Multiple federal departments on Thursday banning illegal immigrants from receiving taxpayer-funded benefits. The Education Department immediately stopping illegal immigrants from receiving financial aid for college, trade schools, and other post-high school education. Health and Human Services banning illegal immigrants from 13 programs like Head Start, mental health and substance abuse support, among others. The Department of Agriculture is stopping illegal immigrants from receiving food stamps or SNAP benefits. The Labor Department is barring them from receiving unemployment and disability insurance. And the Justice Department is closing what they call long-standing loopholes in this regard. The move coincides with President Trump's executive order to stop taxpayers from funding programs for illegal immigrants. The administration says the move will save around $40 billion in benefits.
Take a look at what happened.
Meanwhile, this weekend marks the one-year anniversary of the attempted assassination of President Donald Trump at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. That's as the Secret Service is announcing they've suspended 6 agents without pay in relation to this. The deputy director of the Secret Service told CBS Wednesday that the agents were suspended for up to 45 days. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem saying the necessary changes were made.
The Secret Service has a totally different leadership team now than what they did before and have gone through, and this report has now just been released. I know that President Trump has told me that he's satisfied with it.
Noem says that the administration has changed how Secret Service and local law enforcement communicate, and that the One Big Beautiful Bill, now law, provides more resources for drones and counter-drone technology, as well as training. Reporting by Jack Bradley, NTD News.
From Social Security to Medicaid to the national deficit, how will President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, now law, impact the lives of everyday Americans? Senator Marsha Blackburn, an advocate for the new law, is here to explain its key elements. Senator Marsha Blackburn, thank you so much for being with us.
So pleased to join you. Thank you.
So the Big Beautiful Bill is now signed into law by President Trump, a big piece of legislation, of course, marking a significant milestone. And you released a fact sheet titled Fiction versus Fact, exposing Democrats' lies about the One Big Beautiful Bill. What are some of the biggest different understandings from Democrats, especially around Medicaid, Social Security, and tax changes?
Yes, indeed. And I think with the big, beautiful bill, the number one item that people were so excited about is this is the largest tax cut in our nation's history. And Tennesseans are going to see about a $2,600 a year savings on this, and of course no tax on tips or overtime. And Social Security, an issue I've worked on, you see that bonus deduction of $6,000 per year per senior, so that is going to help remove that tax from Social Security. When we talk about Medicaid, of course, you've got work requirements that are going to be there for able-bodied adults. That is something the American people overwhelmingly support. And what we did was to root out the waste and the fraud. If you are a freeloader, a fraudster, or an illegal immigrant, you will not be able to get Medicaid. Those are services that are reserved for citizens who need those services. And what we're doing is strengthening that program. We know that the National Economic Council has estimated that the average household will see a rise in wages and take-home pay, and that will be about $10,000 per household. As I mentioned, you've got no tax on tips and overtime, and for those that receive tip income and work overtime, they're not going to be paying the tax. That should be about a $2,000 a year savings for workers that receive tips and that work overtime. And then, of course, as I mentioned, for our seniors, that $6,000 per year per senior bonus deduction that they're going to have from their income taxes, so that about 88% of our nation's seniors are going to be and paying no tax on their Social Security earnings.
And of course, surrounding this bill, we've heard a lot of critics saying that it's going to increase the national deficit, and that some GOP hardliners say that spending cuts aren't deep enough. How would you address such issues surrounding now this law that is being implemented? While Americans are expected to see, for example, tax cuts and more potentially money in their pocket, but nationally speaking, how would it impact the deficit and any ways to remedy that?
Yes, and you know, Iris, the CBO came out with a new score on the bill that was passed, and your audience can find my information on that on social media or at our blackburn.senate.gov website. What they showed was that this would be a reduction in the deficit of $400 billion. That's a good thing, because CBO usually is off in their estimates, and while they had thought it would increase the deficit after we passed the bill, and they did a final scoring on the bill, they showed that it would be a decrease in the deficit. Now, there are other groups like the Council of Economic Advisors and the different Fed offices like the Atlanta Fed, and they are all pointing to more robust GDP growth than what the CBO did, and also to more in a deficit and debt reduction than what CBO did. The good thing is everyone is saying it will reduce the deficit.
Switching gears to domestic issues, the DOJ is suing California over transgender athlete policies. Do you expect other states to reconsider their policies in light of this lawsuit, and how broadly do you think the public supports these legal actions?
Oh, this is one of those issues that the vast majority of the American people support. And Iris, you know, many times you'll hear people talk about issues that are 80-20, 90-10. This is one of those. The American people want women's and girls' sports to be for women and girls. And this administration, this Department of Education, have been resolute. And I applaud President Trump and his administration for their support of women and girls and preserving sports for them.
And staying on this topic of sports, your bipartisan bill restoring confidence in the World Anti-Doping Agency Act just advanced in the Senate. You also recently held a hearing pressing WADA for refusing to investigate Chinese swimmers who tested positive for performance-enhancing substances. What are the core goals of your bill here, and how does it protect clean athletes and Olympic integrity?
Yes, indeed. And what we want to make certain is that our athletes, U.S. athletes, are not being disadvantaged. And we know from the Tokyo Olympics that there were 23 Chinese swimmers that had tested positive for TMZ. And there was this sweeping it under the rug, saying an investigation was done, blaming it on content in food and beverage. But yet they secured 92 medals, and they disadvantaged not only U.S. swimmers, but other nations that have a clean athlete policy. So holding WADA to account, making certain that we are going to constrain and restrict the funding that goes to them unless they change their policies. And we want that level playing field for our athletes.
What kind of leadership do you think the U.S. should be showing when it comes to holding accountable China, not only when it comes to their sports behavior, but also when it comes to, for example, human rights concerns?
Yes, and when you look at what is happening in Xinjiang and the persecution of the Uyghurs and what has happened to the Tibetans, and we want to make certain that they are held to account. I appreciate President Trump and his administration for focusing on these human rights abuses. I also anticipate that if China does not uphold their responsibilities, there's always the opportunity to sanction.
Senator Marsha Blackburn, thank you so much for your insights and valuable time, and thank you for your service as well.
Thank you so much.
The Department of Agriculture today removing race and gender preferences. Those preferences were used to determine how much someone may be, quote, socially disadvantaged, and thereby determines how much in federal benefits they can receive, like food stamps. The USDA says it's part of an effort to return the agency to merit and fairness-based principles.